I work for Caterpillar, been at Cat 26 years. Currently a project lead in the medium tractor commercial team. So what that means, D4 through D8, I run special projects to help sell bulldozers, basically. So 26 years, as I said, about 16 years in engineering, and then the last 10 more on the commercial marketing side. So a lot of fun in various roles throughout Caterpillar. Also tremendous passion for Cat history and Cat antique machines. President of the Heartland Earth Movers, which is the Central Illinois antique collector group. We've been with Yellow Power for 2 years, also 20-plus member of ACMOC. So the primary focus of the talk today will be our Centennial Special Edition machines. So for Caterpillar's 100th anniversary this year, we are producing limited edition machines, and what is included with that, probably the most obvious, is that they're gray. So majority of the exterior of the machine that's normally yellow is changed to Centennial gray. Also some Centennial decals or decals for Nathan back there in the back. So a couple different styles there shown here. Also a Centennial plate in the cab. So if you look at the dozers that are out here, you may see that inside the cab there. Those indicate the number of machines of that model, the total number that will be produced, as well as the individual number of that particular machine where that falls in the sequence. So those are individually numbered. Also, you can't see it on the machine, but each of those machines within the list of options that it has is a Centennial arrangement. And so that is something that we add at the factory, and so that kind of distinguishes these machines. Even if somebody did decide to paint one gray on their own and make their own decals, that one will be a little bit harder to do on their own. So how did I get involved in these Centennial machines? So as I said, I'm part of the commercial team, and I work on special projects for that team. So this does kind of fall in my wheelhouse of responsibility. As I said, I'm passionate about Cat history and Cat heritage. So 100th anniversary falls in with that. I have done a couple other special paint projects. In 2020, we did 2 dark gray special edition D6 XEs out of East Peoria for the 175,000 milestone of elevated sprocket medium tractors. We also did track loader in 2021 in special colors. But probably the biggest thing that got me involved in this is I asked too many questions. When they started talking about this, well, what about this? Or how are you going to do this? And they've pretty quickly said, you know what? You're asking a lot of good questions. Why don't you find the answers to those questions? So I got put in charge of this for my division. So as I said, my division, so earth moving or EMD is the division that I'm in. So that's dozers, graders, wheel loaders, and pavers. So initially, I had done 2 special D6s, 1 special track loader. Said, yeah, we can do a few, 10, 20, that sounds probably good, right? And they came back and said, no, we want to do a few hundred. And that took a little bit to get my mind wrapped around. But we found a way. Did take a global team, so certainly did not do this by myself. We had to use basically every factory that we have to be able to do this. So a global team. By the end of this year, we'll have produced 275 of these Centennial Special Edition machines for earth moving. That covers 12 different sales models, 7 factories around the world, plus various suppliers and other help with getting this done. 10 major events for Caterpillar, so big trade shows or special employee events, special customer events. There are over 100 dealers that will be getting these machines. And each of those dealers has special events and special customers that they need to coordinate this with. So a lot of calendar juggling to try to get these machines. And we weren't able to hit every date, but did spend quite a bit of time trying to get the machines where they needed to be for the special events. And then 12 months. So we only, early on they said this is for Centennial. All these machines need to be delivered in the Centennial year. So we did have a finite amount of time to get these cranked out. So as I mentioned, the most noticeable part of these Centennial machines is that they're gray instead of yellow. And one question that gets asked a lot of times rhetorically is, why are they gray? And I think probably most everybody that's at this event has a certain level of interest in cat history, so you probably know, but the original machines in 1925, when cat was formed, were gray. And so the Centennial gray honors the original Caterpillar gray. It is not the same as the original Caterpillar gray. Centennial gray is a lighter shade of gray. And that was decided before I got involved, so I didn't really have any input on my opinion of what color or what shade it should be, but do want to point that out, that it is not the same as original gray. It's lighter, and some benefits of that, it is a little more visible on job sites since it's a little bit lighter than the darker original gray. Also, when we did those two dark gray machines in 2020, one thing that we learned is some of our instructional films are black ink on a clear background. And if you try to put that on a dark machine, you can't read it anymore. So with this lighter gray, we can use the standard films, and we didn't have to release new versions of that just for these machines. So that was a nice benefit there. The machines use the standard CAT trademark and model decals. I know some people have commented, well, why didn't you use the 1925 wavy logo? Everybody loves that wavy logo. There actually were early renderings that tried to use that wavy logo. And what we learned is in space that's designed for a more compact logo, it's really hard to make a long, skinny logo look good. And so we opted to stick with the current markings, even with the gray. And then the last thing, as you see on that D8 in the picture there, the machines aren't entirely gray. You can see the blade's black, the ripper's black, and that was something that I encouraged early on, and there's several reasons for that. One is when we're doing demos, those are the parts that get scratched up first, other than the tracks, right? On wheeled machines, that's going to get scratched up. So it's easier to touch up if it's a standard cat color, and we can get black spray paint right off the cat dealer part shelf. So that was one reason. Another reason was that suppliers that make those parts already make black parts. So I didn't have to invent a process at some of those facilities. They already did black. We just sent it down a different line. And then the last reason is more historical. In 1925, we were only making the tractor. We weren't making the blade. We weren't making the ripper. And so the tractor, the actual 100th anniversary piece, is gray, and the rest is black. So where the gray started, and this was one, and I learned something this morning from Ed's talk, but you hear a lot of talk about battleship gray, and Ed had an anecdote about battleship gray. So in my research on this, there's very little written about paint color. And so it's difficult to understand what the actual colors were, why they were that way. And of course, all the are black and white. So, despite what AI thinks it can do to make pictures colorized, we're kind of all guessing what colors those really were back in the day, right? So we know that Holt used dark red. Surviving machines We found hints of red, so that's supported by some colorized photos. So at the outset, they were red. There's some evidence that Holt, even at least in East Peoria, possibly started using gray as early as 1912. There's a 1912 Holt owned by a family in Indiana, and they swear that they've never seen anything other than gray paint on that tractor. So they think it probably was gray to begin with. So possibly started even before World War I, where we would have seen some of those battleships being painted. The other thing that's interesting about referring to battleships is during World War I, when a lot of these tractors were being built, battleships weren't necessarily gray. If you want to go down a historical rabbit hole, you can look up Dazzle paint, and so you can see a picture of the ship there, where they did some funky things with paint schemes to try to throw off range finding with visual sighting. One place that I have found instance where they refer to what color those machines actually were, the 1917 brochure says the tractor is painted in olive drab. So they may have been gray. They may have switched to an olive drab green, and then possibly back to gray. So all that to say, it appears that Holt over time probably used a variety of colors, probably depending on model, depending on source. But did not know until Ed's talk this morning. He had actually a reference to where there was some concrete documentation that it did actually come from battleships. So that was interesting. So Caterpillar gray, although they kind of were jumping around on colors, by the end they did sort of solidify on this concept of using a gray. That kind of got their trade dress straightened out, where they were gray machines with this red wavy stripe on there, and so kind of had a good design there. As Holt and Best merged, of course the Caterpillar name was retained, and they went with the gray and red that Holt had used as well. So another interesting thing about this Caterpillar gray is there's, as far as I've found, as far as working with Kent Bates, who's here in the audience, spent a lot of time looking into this subject, and as far as we found, there's no original documentation of the exact color that was used back then. So what Kent did was he found a well-preserved part of a tractor. What, the 90s you did that, Kent, probably? Okay, so well-preserved part, and took it to the Cat Tech Center, had them analyze it, and they provided some documentation on what color that would have been. And so that's kind of the standard color in the antique Caterpillar community that we use today. So that's where that came from. So thank you, Kent, for all that work on that. So the machines were gray, as I said, 1925. Obviously, they're yellow today. That transition happened in 1931. So I think a lot of people probably know this. December 7th, 1931, Caterpillar announced that all the tractors thereafter would be painted in highway yellow. One part of this message that often is not recognized or not as well known is that they also continued to offer gray. They wouldn't continue to paint it in the darker gray, the original gray, but they would paint it in a lighter gray. At no extra cost, you could get it in that color. And hats off to the team here at Elkader for putting one of those, what I think is one of those alternate gray machines right here in front of us for this talk. So that machine is a post-yellow machine, and it, as far as we know, is original paint. And you can see the black decals on there that normally would have gone with the yellow machines, and but it's clearly gray. So they did offer that silver gray on tractors. Also, power units were not yellow initially. They were painted with a silver aluminum paint. So again, black and white pictures are hard to tell, but that diesel power unit there, you can see that's a pretty shiny finish on there. Likely was that silver aluminum. We've got a guy in our group, Morris Rittenhouse, has a Gas 70 that has a power unit replacement engine, and you can see that silver gray poking through the yellow. So it's nice to see some of that original paint showing through. That silver aluminum was phased out after a few years, and they went to more of a lighter gray. And then there was also some early gensets that were a darker color, referred to as a blue-gray. So there were several other shades of gray used after that yellow transition, and that continued. It appears all of that was kind of phased out after World War II. So after they started dumping out the last of the olive drab from World War II and reloading yellow paint and all the paint guns, they just started painting everything yellow. So we'll transition away from that little historical recap to present day, and so one of the fun terms that we used for this Centennial project was making dozers gray again. So there's a little more to that than you might think. So people tend to think of manufacturing of equipment like it was back in the day, where it would come off the line and then you would paint it, and that's when it got its color paint. Today, almost all of our machines are painted what we call paint before assembly. And so the parts already come in the color, in the final color. And so doing something in a color other than yellow is a lot more complicated than just putting a different color in the paint can when you paint it at the end of the line. So that's a big part of the project that I worked on this past year, and I'll walk you a little bit through that. So there were several things that we had to do before we even started painting machines. One is validating the paint. So we identified a shade of gray that we wanted to use. As I said, we did these machines in factories all over the world, and so we wanted them to all look the same. And so we had to get paint from the supplier that each of those facilities used and compare it to a control sample and make sure that the paint they were getting matched, the paint that Thailand was getting matched the paint that Brazil was getting matched the paint that East Peoria was getting. So we had a team that worked on that to validate the paint. At the same time, we had another team that was drawing up the decals, those 100th anniversary decals, and putting them on the machine. You might think a machine like the size of a D8, it's easy to figure out where to put a little decal like that. But it's actually harder than you might think, because you can't put it over a bolt head. You can't put it over a seam. You can't put it somewhere where something else bolts on when you get this certain attachment. And so there was a little bit of work that had to go into that to make sure we could be consistent in where we put all of those. Once we had that figured out, of course, the engineers have to put engineering drawings that show the quantities and the dimensions and all of that stuff, so manufacturing knows where to put them. Once we had that done, we had our industrial design group do renderings all the way around the machine from every side, so then manufacturing could reference those, and they knew what needed to be gray, what stayed black, that kind of thing. As they went through those renderings, and they also then could develop their processes and figure out how they're going to actually produce these special color machines. Also, our brand group has always has a lot to say about how we use the logo and what color logo we use and all of that sort of thing. And so every one of these models that we did, there was a bundle of paperwork that had to be done to show them what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, where we were going to do it, how many we were going to do, all that stuff. So had to complete all of that. Once that was done, we communicated out to the dealers what the plan was, which was also interesting because at the same time we were communicating this to dealers, we also were supposed to keep this secret. So we were not publicly announcing any of this until January. And we took orders in November. So kind of a tricky line to walk there with giving them enough information to be confident to order a machine without spilling too many of the beans on what the plan was. So, and then once we got the orders, figuring out where the orders went, what facility is going to build it, when it's going to get it built, and all that sort of planning. Because the majority of the orders came in November, and then we had to place those orders throughout almost the entire next year. So with all that pre-work done, we actually started building our Centennial machines in middle of December of last year. Thailand and Brazil went first. They were focused because they also tend to have the longest shipping times, so we wanted to get them moving on getting their units done. Then Grenoble went. They had to get some machines done for the big trade show this year was in Germany, so the machine for that show comes out of our Grenoble, France facility. And then East Peoria came last, which was certainly bittersweet for me because that's my home facility, and so had put months of work into this, and then my other team members were seeing the fruits of their labor at their facilities, and I had to wait my turn till almost March before I saw the machines coming out of East Peoria. So, but once we got things kicked off, had a few initial bumps in the road, but as things kind of got underway, then we kind of switched into that mode where we're just, when things pop up that we need to deal with, we would deal with that. But overall, it's been fairly smooth as we've gone throughout the rest of the year. Although we've had to continue to prioritize and make sure we get machines to various events, both internally and as well as dealer events throughout the year. So, and then we will continue to build these. Currently, East Peoria is done. Thailand is nearly done. Grenoble, I think, is building their last units this month. The last one they will do will be a fire dozer for Southern California, so D5. And then Brazil will continue through November, mostly for machines that'll stay in South America, so they won't have much of a transit time. So, as I said, 275 machines for earth moving, which would be my division. You can see the models there. So several dozers, and most of these units are dozers. That was clearly a focus as we went through this. Track-type tractors are what started Caterpillar, and so track-type tractors were definitely the focus for these Centennial machines. But we definitely had customers and dealers that wanted other models as well, so we did more than just dozers. So several tractor models, motor grader, one paver, and then some wheel loaders, and then our friends at Building and Construction Products, another division within Caterpillar, also doing much smaller machines but a larger number. So some skid steers, CTLs, backhoes, small and medium wheel loaders, and then a few of their track-type tractors as well. And then a few excavators as well. This project was quite a bit of work and stress at times, some long days early on getting this kicked off, but also some neat opportunities that came with this. Some of those listed here. So the Consumer Electronics Show, as I mentioned, this kind of was all under wraps until January, and the January 9th, or 1/9/25, in honor of the original year of Caterpillar. That was the big day that everything got unveiled, and they did a show at Clayton, North Carolina, and they also did an event at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and I was fortunate enough to be in Las Vegas for another trip that week, and got into the Consumer Electronics Show and was there for the kickoff. So that was really neat. Also got to be part of a cat trial video. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen the cat trial, where they're doing playing Jenga with cat machines, or they're building a Pac-Man course with skid steers, that kind of thing. So some fun videos there. I got to be part of one which was kind of a night at the museum type theme, and they rolled out a gray machine to be part of this collection of significant machines from cat history, and got to go out for a video shoot in Arizona. Some of the antiques provided by the Veer camps for that as well. So that was a neat opportunity. Diecast models. I as part of my job role, I also tend to review some of our diecast models, but this was really the first time in reviewing these Centennial Gray D6XEs, which I believe are for sale in the ELC gift shop. But those were, I got to review a machine that I had a big part in bringing to production, so that was neat. And then some shows. We did a birthday event on April 15th at East Peoria, so that was the actual Caterpillar birthday, and we did an event there. The ELC team really helped out with making that event special, trucked some military D7s down to be part of that, and really added to that. We did a Rantoul show, Half Century Progress, had a nice turnout there. There's currently, this weekend and next weekend, CAT's doing an employee celebration at the Edwards Demonstration Center, and been helping with that. And then, of course, this show, big birthday party that the Moyna team's putting on, that's also a highlight for sure. And then this will all wrap up at Con Expo next year. There'll still be some gray machines displayed there, and fingers crossed that I'll be able to take part in that and see kind of the finale for my Centennial project. So that's all I've got for the prepared material, but I'm certainly open to take any questions, whether you want to shout them out now or come up after. All right, Kent. This is going to be good.
Two questions. What's been the customer demand for the gray machines, and has Caterpillar able to fulfill that demand?
Yeah, so I don't know if that came through, but he asked what the demand has been for the gray machines, and have we been able to fulfill it. We have, I would say we are capacity limited. We can only paint so many per month, and I think we've been able to get pretty close to meeting all of the demand, but there's probably a few out there, especially if they didn't hear about it up front when we had the order window open. And we have added some in as we've gone throughout the year. But there's definitely was good demand for what we had available when we first offered this. So I've got an assistant here, my son Levi, who will be handing out hats for anybody that asks a question. So would you want camo or gray, Kent? Gray, Centennial gray hat. All right. One per person. Sorry. All right, Glenn.
Has the secrecy around the paint code lifted yet?
Secrecy around the paint code. Has it officially lifted? No. I've seen it publicized, but no. Officially, we have not published what the paint code is. Because we do want these to be special. Customers have invested, their money in these special edition units, and we want them to be special for them. We don't want any replicas out there to take away from that.
Just the earth moving division.
So he asked, was it just the earth moving division? So earth moving would be tractors, wheel loaders, motor graders, and pavers. So we did about 275, and then there are from BCP almost 400 units as well. And then I don't have the numbers, but I know they did some excavators. But not every division participated, so there's no gray D11s much to our. We tried, but no big dozers, no mining trucks, things like that. Yeah.
Does that have to do with the electric driving machines?
The gray.
Yeah. Is that all electric?
So the question was, is the Centennial Gray have anything to do with the electric drive machines? So the D6XE that we build, we did offer that in gray, but it's not limited to just electric machines. So even out here, they've got a D6XE, which is the electric drive in Centennial Gray, and then they have a D6, which is a power shift machine. So they have both on display out here.
Big demand on those yet?
On the electric? Yeah, basically similar to the gray machines, we're selling all we can build. So the question was, how long does it take to charge the electric drive machine? So it doesn't take time because the way that works, and I believe Sam Meeker will be covering that at the 3:30 talk if you want to learn more. So I'll give a little plug for Sam's talk, but there is no battery. It's a diesel electric generator, basically powering an electric motor. So, yep. So, and as I said, if you want to learn more, stick around until 3:30. All right.
What percentage was built in East Peoria?
What percentage of the units? So we built 30 D6s in East Peoria. And I definitely want to give a shout out to that East Peoria team because they did go last as far as my tractor factories, but they did a really nice job. They had shorter. Reason they went last, one was because to sell here in the U.S. we didn't have the shipping time to take into account, and so they had a little bit more time to do some advanced planning. And the way they did it is they just did them all at once. Basically, they switched that line from yellow to gray, and they built 30 gray dozers all in a row. And that was really neat to see. That happened to coincide with the Caterpillar April birthday that I mentioned. And so in addition to our tractor show that we did out in the parking lot, we were able to get people in for tours, and they could see that assembly line full of gray Centennial machines. So. Okay. Question is there a part number for the gray? The answer to that one is no, there is not. There will be some communication hopefully coming soon on what to do if you need some touch-up. And then the other question is, did we think about incorporating any red? Like I mentioned, there was some initial talk about doing something with the wavy logo, and in the end, they decided to stick with the current one, which has some elements of red in it, and so they kind of decided that was enough. So.
This is kind of a personal question for you specifically. When you were going through the process and they were doing all the mock-ups for the designs, were there any that you really wish they would have picked that they didn't?
The question is there anything I wish they would have done? So one idea I had early on, and I don't know if I've got a really good picture of it here, but at the beginning, or close to the beginning of this year, all of our medium tractors switched from a decal up here on the radiator to a plate, a plastic plate with the logo. So my idea was for this year, every machine would get a wavy plate on top of the radiator guard, and I thought that would be really cool. And they said, no, we're not doing that. So... So, I even got one of the engineers to design it up, and it would have popped right in there, but no dice. So, all right, just so you know, we're out of hats, so you don't have to ask more questions if you don't want to.
Back to the history of the color. There's a rumor that during World War II, all products were olive drab. Can you confirm that?
So I cannot confirm that. And if somebody asked me that, I probably would ask you. So is this a loaded question that you already know the answer to? Okay. Yeah, I do think it's right. Yeah, so yeah, I think Kent's probably right that they were maxing out production capacity at that point, producing machines for the military, and it's probably very likely that they just painted everything olive drab, possibly even over some yellow primer, or even some parts that came in already yellow. But yeah, I haven't really done any research on it, but I can't recall seeing anything that specifically calls that out either. So, anybody else? Going once, twice. All right. Well, if you do think of another question, don't hesitate to reach out to me, stop me as you're walking around the show, and I'm happy to talk more about this or any other topic. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me on this topic today. We also do have some special Centennial stickers on the table over here, so if you want to grab some of those on the way out, feel free to do that. So thanks again.